We have a report from the flight dynamics officer that the vehicle has exploded.
The 1986 Challenger disaster remains one of the most devastating events in space exploration history. Recently, a recovered recorder from the ill-fated spacecraft has revealed the harrowing moment when the crew realized that something had gone terribly awry. Join us as we explore the final chilling words of the Challenger's crew just moments before their space shuttle tragically exploded 73 seconds after liftoff. Here's what happened. Minute by minute, groundwork for the disaster was set years earlier. When discussing the timeline of the Challenger shuttle disaster and the final chilling words of the Challenger's crew, it's crucial to consider the context. Many at the time viewed NASA's spacecraft much like airplanes, reliable, reusable, and safe. However, this perception overlooked critical risk factors. Studies starting from 1979 highlighted the potential for shuttle failures, particularly during launch. Initially, estimates ranged from 1 in 1,000 to 1 in 10,000, with solid-fuel rocket boosters identified as a weak link. By 1983, subsequent research suggested a much higher risk of around 1 in 100. The Challenger tragedy prompted physicist Richard P. Feynman to reflect on the oversights leading to the disaster. He noted a discrepancy between engineers' and management's risk assessments, with engineers estimating higher probabilities than management. This underscored a need for better data collection and risk assessment practices, leading to the establishment of new programs post-disaster. Prior to Challenger, NASA lacked comprehensive data collection for risk assessment, a shortfall that contributed to the oversight of critical issues. This absence of data underscores how such oversights occurred. The countdown to Challenger's final days started on January 22, 1986, the original launch date. Preparations for the Challenger's launch and mission began in 1984, encompassing a months-long process. Crew training alone spanned 37 weeks. Interestingly, the date of the disaster wasn't the originally planned launch date. Following a flight readiness review on January 15th, there were multiple changes to the launch schedule. These adjustments aimed to accommodate factors such as potential aborted landings and the optimal viewing window for Halley's Comet, a significant aspect of Challenger's mission, alongside deploying the Spartan satellite. Initially slated for January 22, 1986, the launch was postponed on December 23, 1985, until the following day. Further delays pushed it to the 25th, signaling the onset of complications. January of that year proved unusually cold, with temperatures plummeting well below freezing. It became evident that Challenger would be launching in conditions unprecedented for a shuttle. Due to weather concerns, the launch was pushed back again from the 26th to the 27th. On the 27th, Challenger neared departure from the launch pad, navigating through challenging weather conditions. Challenger's launch attempt, on January 27th, was aborted in the last minutes. On the morning of January 27th, the Challenger crew was all set for liftoff, with NASA records indicating that everything was proceeding as scheduled. Shuttle preparations kicked off at 12:30 a.m., and by 5:07 a.m., the crew was up and at 'em, getting strapped into their designated positions inside the shuttle by 7:56 a.m. Now, that might sound like a tight time frame, but it's worth noting that their tightly packed schedule only allowed for 8 hours of shut-eye, starting a good 18 hours after they initially woke up on launch day. About an hour later, the crew on board the Challenger alerted control to a door ajar signal, pinpointing an issue with an exterior hatch that would soon become a thorn in their side. Despite the ground crew's efforts to secure the door, they hit a snag when they couldn't budge the exterior handle. It was stuck due to frozen screws. For 2 painstaking hours, ground crews wrestled with the hatch handle, employing screwdrivers, a drill, and even a hacksaw in their bid to free it. By the time they finally succeeded, the crew had been sitting tight for 5 hours, and the launch window had slipped by. In response, Kennedy Shuttle Chief Bob Seek voiced their disappointment, stating, "It was just not our day. Our plan is to recycle and go for Tuesday morning." The countdown came to a halt at 9:10, a mere 27 minutes shy of the launch deadline, January 27th, 5:45 p.m., an appeal to scrub the mission from Morton Thiokol. The Challenger disaster almost didn't happen at all, especially if the engineers at Morton Thiokol had their say. Morton Thiokol, the company responsible for the O-rings implicated in the Challenger disaster, made a last-ditch effort on January 27th during a meeting with NASA, pleading, "Don't launch in these temperatures." Details of this crucial call were later recounted in Contest for the Heavens, The Road to the Challenger Disaster. Earlier that day, around 1 p.m., NASA reached out to Thiokol to inquire about potential issues caused by the cold weather. After internal discussions among management, engineers were brought into the fold by 2:30 p.m. By 5:45 p.m., Thiokol, in a conference with NASA, recommended against launching altogether. Further deliberations led to another meeting scheduled for 8:45 p.m. Engineer Roger Boisjoli presented a compelling case, highlighting that the O-rings weren't designed to withstand the unusually low temperatures Florida was experiencing. In simple terms, these rubber seals, crucial for containing hot gases during solid fuel launches, lose flexibility in the cold, risking leakage and catastrophe if not properly set. Based on the engineer's recommendation, Thiokol leadership insisted that no launch should occur in temperatures below the previously tested threshold of 53 degrees Fahrenheit. This stance persisted until 10:30 p.m. Morton Thiokol backs down. Discussions regarding the safety implications of the temperature stalemate hit a dead end as contractor Morton Thiokol and NASA adjourned their conference to delve deeper into the matter. However, upon reconvening, the recommendations made would seal the fate of the Challenger and its crew. The teleconference resumed at 11 p.m., and engineer Roger Boisjoli later expressed his bewilderment, stating, "It is hard to understand how those at NASA and Marshall could have thought the Challenger flight ready unless they presumed that unless the engineers could show that the flight would fail, then it would succeed." Essentially, Thiokol engineers couldn't provide definitive evidence of O-ring failure, leading to the assumption that they would hold up fine. Thiokol executives faxed over their signed affidavit declaring the Challenger fit for launch at 11:45 p.m., despite ongoing dissent from some within NASA who argued against the launch's wisdom. Debate over safety and the problems presented by the cold continued the next morning. On January 28th, launch day dawned with overnight temperatures dipping well below freezing once again. At 1:35 a.m., crews headed to the launch site to assess whether ice would pose a problem. Simultaneously, issues with the ground liquid hydrogen storage tank were uncovered, leading to a delay in fueling. By 3 a.m., inspection teams had submitted their report, and the countdown pressed on. However, this delay threw things off schedule. Although the crew was slated for a wake-up call at 6:18, they were already awake amid ongoing debates about the mission. By 5 a.m., discussions regarding the O-rings had resurfaced, yet they weren't even mentioned during the 9 a.m. meeting discussing the results of a second inspection of the launch site. Throughout the morning, ice and cold temperatures remained significant concerns, yet the decision was made to proceed with the launch. For the crew, it was business as usual as they prepared for launch. The Challenger's launch delay afforded the crew some extra prep time, especially since they were already up before their scheduled 6:18 a.m. wake-up call. They took their time over breakfast, and while they were briefed on various matters like weather conditions and temperature, an unsettling detail emerged from the official logs. Neither then nor in earlier weather discussions was the crew told of any concern about the effects of low temperature on the shuttle system. Amidst the media presence, CBS Radio News reporter Frank Matek recalled observing the crew's preparations a year after the disaster. "We watched the crew members gather together for breakfast, take their trip to the launch pad, put on their spacesuits, and board their spaceship. We saw Krista McAuliffe smile as a technician gave her an apple. At 8:03, the crew arrived at the launch pad, and within 33 minutes, they were strapped in and ready to go. However, an ice inspection concluded just 8 minutes later, prompting another delay. Subsequent inspections continued until 11:15 before it was finally time to proceed with the launch. 73 seconds passed, between engine ignition and a loss of signal. The destruction of the Challenger spacecraft unfolded with shocking speed, as the entire flight spanned a mere 73 seconds. Launch commenced precisely at 11:38 10 a.m. Here's a snippet from the NASA transcript detailing the tragic sequence of events. 6.6 seconds, Space Shuttle engines ignition. 0 seconds, solid rocket booster ignition, plus 7 seconds, roll program. Challenger. Roger, roll Challenger. Houston, plus 124. Sikau. Main engines throttled down to 94%, plus 142 Sikau. Main engines throttled down to 65%, plus 159 Sikau. Main engines throttled up to 104%, plus 65 sec. Challenger, go at throttle up. Houston. Roger. Go at throttle up. Challenger. Plus 73 sec. Loss of signal from Challenger. NASA has emphasized that there were no initial signs of trouble. Everything appeared normal, with processes and procedures unfolding as planned. There were no alarms or warnings until suddenly there was silence. Strangely, NASA has noted that the first indication of disaster coincided with a moment ingrained in the memories of countless students who watched the broadcast via a satellite link to schools, the moment the shuttle began to disintegrate. Voices of the dead. 4 of the 7 crew members of the Challenger played a role in both the beginning and the end of their ill-fated mission. These were Commander Francis R. Scobie, pilot Michael J. Smith, Mission Specialist Ellison S. Onizuka, and Mission Specialist Judith A. Resnick. Throughout the mission transcript, they are referred to by their job titles: CDR, PLT, MS-1, and MS-2. Notably, the Challenger crew included Krista McAuliffe, a teacher selected as the first civilian in space out of 11,000 applicants. The transcript captures moments from just over 3 minutes before liftoff, featuring exchanges of short phrases and confirmations among the crew members. NASA interjects with occasional statements and reminders, such as liquid oxygen supply arm to ET at 1 minute and 47 seconds before launch, and seat restraints at 1 minute and 33 seconds before launch. Despite the gravity of their mission, the crew members maintain a mix of humor and professionalism. For instance, when NASA inquires about the shuttle oxygen vent cap, Onizuka quips, "Doesn't it go the other way?" eliciting laughter from the crew. And when NASA instructs the shuttle to commence rolling 11 seconds into launch, Smith responds with a quip reminiscent of a movie hero saying, "Go you mother." Although helium levels in the right engine are suboptimal, everything else appears normal. At 1 minute and 10 seconds, Scobie directs Smith to throttle up, but just 3 seconds later, Smith mutters, "Uh-oh," and communication abruptly cuts out. Ops recorders fill in the gaps. The transcript in question originates from Operational Recorder Number 2, a standard piece of equipment on space shuttles typically reviewed post-mission to provide a comprehensive understanding of events. As detailed by UPI archives, investigators retrieved Ops Recorder Number 2 from the Atlantic Ocean, located at a depth of 100 feet, 18 miles offshore. Following cleaning and analysis, the transcript provided insight into the final moments of the Challenger's crew. Beyond serving as a memorial for the Challenger's crew, the transcript proved instrumental in pinpointing the cause of the shuttle's demise. If pilot Michael J. Smith uttered "uh-oh" before the Challenger disintegrated, investigators reasoned, it suggested he, and possibly others, had some inkling of trouble, even if only for a fleeting moment. However, by that time, there likely wasn't enough time to intervene. Investigators determined that the Challenger's O-rings were excessively vulnerable to temperature fluctuations, chilling overnight before launch and failing upon liftoff. As UPI Archives elucidates, these flawed O-rings triggered a sequence of events culminating in a hydrogen leak in the Challenger's right external rocket. At that critical juncture, the craft's instruments might have indicated a drop in tank pressure. Yet if Smith observed such readings, he had no opportunity to respond beyond leaving behind his final words. However, there was another report of a secret tape recorded aboard the doomed Space Shuttle Challenger that captured the final panic-stricken moments of the crew, raised suspicions of a cover-up. NASA-released videotapes later revealed an unusual plume of fire and smoke emerging from the lower section of the shuttle's right solid-fuel rocket seconds before the disaster. Initially, it was widely believed, and NASA did little to dispel this belief, that all crew members perished instantly when the external tank exploded. However, NASA eventually acknowledged the likelihood that at least 3 crew members remained conscious after the explosion, possibly enduring until the crew compartment of the shuttle plummeted back to Earth and crashed into the Atlantic Ocean. The agency's secrecy regarding the Challenger tragedy, including its resistance to media requests for access to wreckage photographs, settlement details with the families of the crew, and autopsy reports, fueled speculation that there was more to the story than met the eye. In such an atmosphere of secrecy, rumors abound. Miami Herald reporter Dennis E. Powell suggested that the crew likely remained alive and conscious until the shuttle's crew compartment plunged into the Atlantic Ocean. When the shuttle disintegrated, the crew compartment didn't immediately lose pressure. Instead, there was a jolt, described by one investigator as a pretty good kick in the pants, which, while uncomfortable, wasn't severe enough to cause injury. This likely explains the final word heard on the flight deck tape recorder recovered from the ocean floor 2 months later. Oh. As the astronauts on the flight deck experienced the jolt, they witnessed a bright flash and a cloud of steam. The lights went out, and the intercom fell silent. After a brief moment, the astronauts ceased receiving oxygen into their helmets. Apparently, astronaut Ronald McNair leaned forward and activated the Personal Emergency Air Pack, PEEP, of shuttle pilot Michael Smith. However, Commander Francis Scobie's PEEP was in a difficult-to-reach location and remained inactive. Nevertheless, if the crew compartment didn't rapidly lose air pressure, Scobie would have only needed to lift his mask to breathe. 2 other PEEPs were activated, but the remaining 3 were never recovered. Despite the shuttle's disintegration, the crew compartment remained intact. Investigators noted that it stabilized in a nose-down position within 10 to 20 seconds. Even if the compartment gradually lost pressure, the astronauts on the flight deck likely remained conscious long enough to see the ocean rushing toward them. If the compartment maintained its integrity until impact with the water, they would have remained conscious and aware throughout. In fact, there was no clear evidence that the crew cabin depressurized at all. There was no sudden, catastrophic loss of air that would have rendered the astronauts unconscious within seconds, as evidenced by the absence of upward buckling of the mid-deck floor. For years, a purported transcript of the Challenger crew's final moments has circulated online, claiming to be from a leaked secret tape from NASA. According to this alleged tape, the crew of the shuttle Challenger not only survived the explosion that tore the vessel apart, but endured 3 harrowing minutes of screaming, crying, cursing, and praying before their tragic end on January 28, 1986. The tape reportedly begins with a crew member startled and screaming, "What happened? What happened? Oh God, no!" The recording captures screams, curses, and weeping, followed by farewells to their families. 2 minutes and 45 seconds later, the tape abruptly ends. This coincides with the moment the shuttle's crew compartment, remaining intact after the explosion, crashed into the Atlantic Ocean at over 2,000 miles per hour, instantly claiming the crew's lives. Claims of a cover-up surround the incident, with Robert Hotz, a member of the Presidential Commission investigating the disaster, alleging NASA can't face the fact that they put these astronauts in a situation where they didn't have adequate equipment to survive. NASA doesn't give a damn about anything but covering its ass. The official account released by NASA ends with shuttle pilot Michael Smith's, "Uh-oh." However, some NASA employees claim to have heard more. They assert that the astronauts had time to realize something was wrong after the shuttle broke up, suggesting a different narrative from the official version. All shuttle astronauts carry personal recorders, and the tape in question apparently came from Krista's McAuliffe, which was recovered after the shuttle disaster, said Hotz. Jarvis was sitting beside her, and when he figured out what was happening, he said, "Give me your hand." NASA insists there's nothing like that on tape, but they're talking about the mission tape, not Krista's. So they're not lying, but they're not telling the truth either. A journalist with close ties to NASA was even more emphatic. There are persistent rumors, dating back to the disaster, that this tape is absolutely bone-chilling. The following transcript begins 2 seconds after NASA's official version ends, with pilot Michael Smith saying, "Oh!" Times from the moment of takeoff are shown in minutes and seconds and are approximate. The sex of the speaker is indicated by M or F. T+1, 15. M. What happened? What happened? Oh God, no. T+1, 17. F. Oh dear God. T+1, 18. M. Turn on your air pack. Turn on your air. T+1, 20. M. Can't breathe. Choking. T+1, 21. M. Lift up your visor. T+1, 22. MF. Screams. It's hot. Sobs. I can't. Don't tell me. God, do it. Now. T+1, 24. M. I told them. Damn it. Resnick, don't. T+1, 27. M. Take it easy. Move. Unintelligible. T+1, 28. F. Don't let me die like this. Not now. Not here. T+1, 31. M. Your arm. No. I. Extended garble. Static. T+1, 36. F. I'm passing out. T+1, 37. M. We're not dead yet. T+1, 40. M. If you ever wanted unintelligible, me a miracle. Unintelligible. Screams. T+1, 41. M. She's garble. Damn. T+1, 50. M. Can't breathe. T+1, 51. MF. Screams. Jesus Christ, no. T+1, 54. M. She's out. T+1, 55. M. Lucky. Unintelligible. T+1, 56. M. God. The water. We're dead. Screams. T+2. Sars. F. Goodbye. Sobs. I love you. T+2. 03. M. Loosen up. T+2, 7. M. It'll just be like a ditch landing. T+2, 69. M. That's right. Think positive. T+2, 11. M. Ditch procedure. T+2, Fokerton. M. No way. T+2, 17. M. Give me your hand. T+2, 19. M. You awake in there? T+2, 29. M. Our Father. Unintelligible. T+2, 42. M. Hallowed be thy name. Oh, unintelligible. T+2, 57. M. You over there? T+2, 58. M. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. I will dwell in the house. T+3, 15 to end. None. Static. Silence. Rest in peace. However, this so-called transcript can be traced back to an article published in a February 1991 issue of Weekly World News, a tabloid notorious for fabricating news stories. There is no evidence of such a transcript, and it's unlikely that the Challenger crew were equipped with personal recorders. Additionally, even if they had been, these recorders wouldn't have captured the comments of crew members on different decks, as the fake transcript suggests. It's known that not all aboard perished the instant the external tank exploded. However, the exact sequence of events within the cabin after the explosion remains unclear. The impact of the crash, coupled with the 6 weeks the wreckage and bodies spent in the sea, made it impossible to determine precisely when and how everyone aboard died. Moreover, any unshielded audio tapes would have been ruined by exposure to seawater. If the cabin depressurized immediately, the crew might have lived for 6 to 15 seconds after the blast. If not, They could have survived the full 2 minutes and 45 seconds it took for the cabin to plummet 65,000 feet back to Earth. Nevertheless, they would not have survived the crushing 207 mph impact with the waters off the Florida coast, which refutes the more extreme rumors claiming the astronauts survived for hours or days under the sea. A significant clue in unraveling the mystery of the crew's survival time lies in the examination of the 4 emergency air packs recovered from the wreckage. 3 had been manually activated, suggesting that at least some crew members recognized the crisis and attempted to save themselves. However, the 4th unactivated pack provides a stronger indication that realization of the circumstances and loss of consciousness likely occurred simultaneously. Dr. Joseph Kerwin, Director of Life Sciences at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, reached this conclusion in his July 1986 report. The report was based on an official examination of various elements, including the debris of the crew compartment, audio tapes and other data recorded on the shuttle, the remains of the astronauts, and photographs of the capsule as it descended after the shuttle explosion. In his report, Dr. Kerwin stated, "The cause of death of the Challenger astronauts cannot be positively determined. The forces experienced by the crew during the orbiter breakup were likely insufficient to cause death or serious injury, and the crew may have, but not conclusively, lost consciousness in the moments following the orbiter breakup due to the loss of pressure in the crew module. Essentially, they might have survived the entire descent and could have even been fully conscious throughout the ordeal. However, even if this were the case, the purported transcript does not accurately capture their final moments. Despite the uncertainties surrounding their last moments, their legacy lives on, inspiring future generations of explorers." What are your thoughts on the Challenger disaster and the challenges faced by astronauts in the pursuit of scientific exploration? Share your reflections in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more insightful content in the future. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay tuned.